Hello, everybody. I wanted to talk about handling some objections today. So basically, there's two ways you can handle a customer objection. You can handle it before it happens, or you can handle it after it happens. Take a guess at which one's easier. And it's definitely before. If you handle it before, you never have to deal with it. If you're trying to handle an objection afterwards, sometimes it comes across like you're almost trying to change their mind, and nobody likes having their mind changed for them. It makes it much more challenging. So I'm going to make a few different videos of handling objections before they happen. The one I'm going to talk about today is it's too expensive. So I don't know if you've ever heard a customer say it's too expensive before. But the first thing about handling too expensive is understanding too expensive. So too expensive has zero to do with the price of Cutco. It has everything to do with the value of the Cutco. But if you say, they might say a homemaker is too expensive, the 5-pay is too expensive, a galley set's too expensive, starter sets, down to a trimmer is too expensive, and then they go spend $100 on dinner that night. And you're like, what the heck? I thought you said it's too expensive. No, too expensive means it's not worth it to them, right? So it doesn't matter if it's a homemaker or a trimmer. If it's not worth it, that's a value thing. Now, as a good representative, should never hear too expensive. And if you're brand new, you might not be there yet, but if you work on your presentation, you can get to the point where you never hear it's too expensive, because that's in how much value you build. Now, I can't afford it. It's different. I love hearing I can't afford it. I can't afford it just means I want it. I just can't swing that right now. Then all you have to do is show them a 5-pay or drop down a smaller set or get them started with something smaller that they can build up to later. But if you've been handling like with the investment options and showing smaller sets and it's just not working, it's usually because you're trying to handle I can't afford it, where the real objection is it's too expensive. So the key is handling too expensive before it happens. So, and the real key to that is when you're doing your features and benefits section. So when you're right here doing your features and benefits section, that's where you really dig in and build a lot of the value. So I remember when I was a rep, I was new, I was a high school kid. It was a lot of money to me. So I wanted to make Cutco seem affordable to everybody, because that's what we talk about. Anybody can afford Cutco, but that's not how we want to come across at the beginning of the demo. We want to make the Cutco sound so expensive, like it's going to be so much, they're going to have to refinance their house just to afford a paring knife until they hear the price. So when we're going through the features and benefits, I know it says expensive in your manual, but how do you really get that? So when we talk about the handle design was designed by Thomas Lamb. He was an industrial designer. He was the guy on handle design back in the 50s. Designed tons of different things, from helicopter cockpits to cookware to all sorts of different things. But he had a patent on the handles, so he made a lot of money on those handles. That handle design is really expensive to use. Right? Thermoresin, it doesn't crack, break, melt, chip. It takes a lot to be able to melt that. You have to have direct heat of over 300 degrees. This is the same type. It's very similar to what they use even on like football helmets. One of our reps' dads works for Boeing. They said they use different parts of a plane or use a thermoresin. It's a super tough plastic. It's not the cheapest thing. It's expensive to use, but it's going to hold up forever. That's why we use it, Mrs. Jones. Nickel silver rivets. The rivets we use, nickel silver is the same metal that a lot of jewelers will use to set diamonds onto rings. They're probably not going to use a cheap metal to do that, right? It doesn't expand or contract, and that's why we use it. We can guarantee it forever. Another one of our reps goes to Cornish and is into music. She said a lot of the parts of the French horn are made with nickel silver, and if you've ever looked at the price of those things, they aren't cheap, 4 digits plus, right? And then we have high carbon stainless steel, one of the most expensive steels you can use on kitchen cutlery, but we use it because it stays sharp really long and it doesn't rust, pit, or corrode. It's the best of both worlds. And then the double D-edge. Our double D-edge isn't a patented design. Any company could go use the exact same design, but you don't see it out there because it's a super expensive process. And then we also offer the ability to get it sharpened, which I'll cover in our guarantee. But when you finish doing the features and benefits and cut the rope, a customer should stop you right there and say, you know what, Joe, you can just stop right there, because we're not going to be able to, it's going to be like $5,000 for a knife. There's no way we're going to be able to afford that. That's what you want them to be thinking at this point. Then when you go over the forever guarantee of once you buy it, you never have to buy it ever again in your life. The other part I wanted to handle with expensive is then when you get to the price comparison. I remember when I was a new rep, I was scared to show some of these prices of the other knives where that's like, it's $2,000. And they'd be like, whoa, that's a lot. I'm like, don't worry, ours isn't that much. That was the opposite. The opposite of what I wanted to do. You want them to say, if you ever get one of those customers like $2,000 for knives, you say, oh yeah, that's only the sale price. It's actually only $3,000. That one's $4,000, right? You want to say it like it's nothing, right? I like to say, as you can see, the price for the Wusthof is only $3,435. You can even find on sale for like only $2,000. And they should look at you like, did he just say only, right? And you want them thinking, oh my gosh, how much is this going to cost, right? Because if they're even considering a set of Cutco at $4,000, that's what you want them to do. You want them thinking, if this is $4,000, would I buy it? So if the price is $4,000 and the value, they're saying, is it worth $4,000? Is it worth $4,000? Is it worth $4,000? I don't know. They say, oh yeah, by the way, it's actually only $1,200. Price just went down here. If they were thinking about it for $3,000 or $4,000, they're going to jump on it just like that for $1,200. And even if the homemaker doesn't end up being the best set for them, they'll definitely find something that they like, and it will be worth it to them. Bottom line is the value of Cutco is there, and a good representative is going to make sure that every single customer sees the value. Don't just kind of breeze your way through those features and benefits. If you really do a good job building a value, you'll never have to hear too expensive ever again. Hope that helps, guys. Until the next time.